Skies all open wide, geese go high and over. Oh, now you're a beachcomber, a fistful of sandfire, sea, lavender. See you next year.
Hello and welcome to Deepdale Podcast, February 2022. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jason and we are coming to you from Deepdale Farm on the beautiful Norfolk coast, an organic arable farm with lots going on, camping, rooms, shops and, of course, amazing views. This month, for your listening pleasure, we've got Farm Chat with Nathan chatting about conservation and sheep. Ollie from the One Stop Nature Shop gives us an update on the wildlife we can see locally. Gin from Margins tells us about the glamping they are offering at Deepdale this summer. And David from Moongazer Ale tells us about his amazing beer push that he's doing in March to raise funds for its On the Ball Testicular Cancer charity. Not easy for me to say clearly. And we really hope you enjoy the listen. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please do email us at podcast@deepdalefarm.co.uk. Have a great year.
Farm Chat with Nathan and Jason.
Well, hello and welcome to the podcast, Deepdale Podcast, for what is probably going to be our February episode, February 2022. So we've already lost a month of the year. Christmas is less than 11 months away, which is quite scary. Nathan and I are sitting in the last of the afternoon sun up next to Downs Barn in what has just been described as Nathan's den.
I mean, it's not a den. It's it is a centre for rural skills and engagement, but it's totally also a den.
Yeah, exactly. It's got fire pit. It's got logs that we're sitting on.
It's got a little kitchen. We've got a little cooker. We've got a little fridge. We've got a boiler. We've got various different bits and pieces, so we can make our volunteers and people who come to the farm to do rural skills or green woodworking courses or various other bits and pieces. We've got some bits so we can make people comfortable.
Feed and water them. Yeah, this is something that we've been able to do with the support of a scheme called Farming in Protected Landscapes, which is all about promoting biodiversity, engagement, rural skills, sustainable farming, various different good things, and it's aimed at farms and estates in areas of outstanding natural beauty, national parks and the Broads. So we got an application in, and this is a lovely bit of work that we've been able to do to start to use the barn on a very small scale, nice and quiet. But just to have some small groups and do some really nice things. Yeah, it's great. And Richard's looking forward to bringing his green woodworking courses up here, and hopefully we'll have some basket weaving and spoon whittling and that kind of thing. Yeah, well, we just had some volunteers on the farm this Wednesday. We've been doing some putting out some supplementary feed for wild birds on the farm. We've been doing some hedgerow works, and we had our inaugural volunteers cup of tea out of our new kitchen this week, which has been really nice. And apologies, occasionally you can probably hear the birds in the background, which is really lovely. And we're looking at one of the feeders that Nathan and the volunteers put in place, and they are huge feeders, absolutely enormous. I will take a photo to go with the podcast, but they have been covered in, what did you say, blue tits? We've had blue tits, but also on our feeders we've had greenfinches, goldfinches, and the sparrows have been all over them. So sparrows are very happy. Yeah. We've got very happy sparrows. Yeah, very happy sparrows. And apologies, in the background, you occasionally will hear a drill, which is Tim and Julie are continuing with the electricity installation. We did and ah about making this off-grid. But then we decided that basic necessities of
hot drinks and being able to cook things probably required electricity. So we have decided to put that in, and I think it was a wise decision, because we have tried boiling a kettle over a fire before, and it takes longer than you'd like.
Well, I do like a storm kettle. It's always lovely to get a storm kettle on the go. I mean, the lovely thing about a storm kettle basically being that it's a flask with a fire happening right in the middle of it, which is always quite exciting. But yeah, I mean, if we've got a reasonable sized group of people, when volunteers decide they want a cup of tea, we are cheating. I mean, we're cheating with electricity.
Yeah,
but but it's also good, because it means we can make tea fast.
Maybe we can install a bicycle so that they have to pedal for their tea.
I may have told you previously, I've been to see an amazing project at a woodland down in Wiltshire, where there was a small group got themselves a little workshop established in the woodland, and they managed to build a forge with an old car wheel, a bicycle and a leaf blower, and as long as someone was pedalling fast enough, they were actually able to melt metal and make their own tools. And
that's very cool.
That's the kind of thing I want to be achieving up here.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's off grid properly.
Yep.
That's very good. Yeah, no, we will have to pay an electricity bill here, which in the current climate is quite scary, but it will and eventually we'll sort of look at things like solar panels to kind of mitigate that. I'd love some wind turbines, but not everybody likes wind turbines as much as I do.
Yeah.
So. But hey, and we're sort of so this is Dan's Barn, which some of you who've been on our Hedge Collective weekends and our Wild Wednesdays will know well. We've had some great conservation events up here, and it will be a lot more stuff happening out of here as well. And there's a pond going in just yards from where we're sitting right now, which will be fantastic for wildlife. And it's just. As Nathan says, it's just going to become this sort of centre for rural crafts, which is going to be absolutely wonderful. So if you run rural crafts and want to talk to us about hosting them at Deepdale, then we'd love to talk to you. And if you want to attend, just keep going to deepdalefarm.co.uk/events and have a look at what we've got on offer. There's some great events happening already. So what else have you got to tell us? What else is happening on the farm at the moment?
Sheep.
Yeah, that's very true. Yes.
Sheep. You're
very excited about the sheep, aren't you?
Oh, it's lovely. It's lovely. We have sheep grazing a winter cover crop, so we've been working on this since 2020. We've been developing a lovely working relationship with William and Sarah, who are livestock farmers just down the road at Hillington. And as of a couple of weeks ago, we brought on 36 pregnant ewes. They're described as broken mouth ewes. They're a little bit older. They're maybe 4 or 5 years old.
Oh, I see. Now I understand
because they've broken some of their teeth.
Yes, yeah, that makes sense now.
Because their teeth break and sort of chip after a little while of lots of nibbling. They actually started off life in Wales, so they've come over to Norfolk now. And we're grazing these sheep on a cover crop that we put in specifically for them. Lots of nice stuff like stubble turnips and fodder radish, and they're looking really happy. So they're going to be around for another month or so, and then they will go off and lamb. But for the time being, we are getting a beautiful job of nibbling away at one of our cover crops, and it's a great example for us to really put into practice one of the regenerative farming practices which has been missing from the farm up until now, which is to use livestock to cycle those nutrients, to turn the green stuff into brown stuff, to tread it into the field, to really sort of give the
£1,000,000 bullets.
Yeah, to give the soil biology a nice feed. And it's just really nice to have animals back on the farm. So they're looking quite happy. I've just checked in on them on the way up here, and a lot of them were lying around in the sun. They're just basking in the sun. It's fairly chilly at the moment, but for them it's really quite a pleasant day.
And actually, like a trip from Hillington to here is literally next door in comparison to their trip from Wales to Hillington. So it's a very short distance, and they're thoroughly enjoying what they're getting to munch on. So it's a pretty good deal for them, really.
Yeah, well, we've put some nice stuff out for them. We have our next guided walk is happening on the farm this coming Thursday, the first Thursday of every month. And if you join the next guided walk, we've already got about 11 or 12 people on it, but we'll be walking past the sheep, and we can have a look at, for example, you can see the difference between where they've been grazing and where they're yet to graze, and the way that they graze, and and what they're doing for the soil and for the farm. So it's really nice to sort of see this in action. And as soon as we've moved the sheep off the current plot that we're in, I'll be getting a spade in to look at the soil and to see, it's going to take a little while, and we'll need to do this more than once to sort of start to see some difference to the soil organic matter. But it's really nice. Every time I go and look at the sheep, there's constantly one or more of them is pooing or peeing, and it's ridiculous how excited I am getting about this. I'm seeing manure being dropped directly into the right place, and it's awesome.
And no machinery is necessary. We don't have to get any huge bits of machinery and burn lots of horsepowers and stuff. The sheep just happily nibble. We don't have to mechanically destroy the cover crop. That's all done by the sheep with their munching and their broken teeth, and it's good.
Yeah, by the
really
time they're
good.
finished on this cover crop, they've actually grazed it down far enough that we don't need to mow it. The cover crop is essentially, grazed right down to the ground. And really the next step for us is potentially we can roll the cover crop before a frost and sort of really break open the stems and make sure that the frost gets to the plants and kills them. But otherwise, essentially that cover crop is ready to sort of cultivate into the ground, and we're ready to get the next crop in.
Very exciting. Exciting. So what's going in on after the sheep?
Well, at the moment we have got spring beans due to go into that field. Spring beans were an okay crop for us last year. Spring beans, as part of our rotation, are a break crop, so we need to grow a legume crop between cereals, which is partly about sort of cutting off a bridge for diseases between successive cereal crops, and it's also about actually putting a little bit of nitrogen back into the soil, because spring beans use about 80% of the nitrogen that they fix as legumes, but they actually leave a little bit in for the following crop. So we're going to look at putting in something like spring beans, but in the future, we could be experimenting with, there's plenty of other legume crops like chickpeas, lentils, and
Stephen really, really wants you to choose something where he doesn't have to change those huge metal grids in the
Stephen
in the
wants
combine.
something small,
and something that doesn't sound, as he described it, like a bag of spanners being thrown at his head while he's harvesting it.
Yes, exactly. So this is an issue that we've got, is that our combine harvesters in general, certainly our combine harvester, uses 3 different sieves right inside the innards, and these sieves are called concaves because they're shaped a bit like a sort of a half moon, and they weigh about 60 kilos. They weigh a serious amount, and they are a massive hassle to change. But you actually have to change the concave. If you're harvesting spring beans, you have to change it for one that's got bigger holes in it, so the beans will go through it. And the problem that we've got is that the reason Stephen wants us to look at what we're growing next, and ideally something like lentils, is because they're small. They're about the same size as wheat.
So you don't have to change the concave, and it doesn't make as much noise.
Well,
basically.
that would be one idea. Whether that's exactly the reason that we want to be making a change like that, I don't know.
I'm not sure it should be the driving force for it, but it's nice to have if we find something suitable.
Well, exactly. So we're looking in the next week or so. We're basically pulling together all of our plans for spring cropping, and so all of our crops this year are spring crops, which means that all of the areas on the farm that we would normally grow a crop in have all got either clover lays or winter cover crops on them. They're all covered, and essentially all of our crops will be established from February through till about March, April time. And so we essentially are sort of pulling together our plans for that now, but that's when we're not still running around pulling our hair out trying to sort out our hedgerows.
Yes, but you've had a couple of Wild Wednesdays.
We've had a couple of volunteering sessions just recently. In the last one, we've started to clear out material from one of the hedgerows on the farm, and before too long, we're going to take the fairly scary-looking, but sort of probably fairly necessary action of coppicing some of our hedgerows, which essentially means we'll actually cut the plant off to about 2 or 3 inches above the ground. And then, as long as we protect the regrowth, we can actually potentially, that hedge will then put on about 4 or even 5 feet of regrowth just in the next year. And it's a sort of good way for us to sort of reset some of these really quite tired old hedgerows that have been a bit knackered by the way that they've been trimmed in the past. So it looks fairly drastic, But that's one of the things we're moving on to next, and that starts with clearing them out so that we don't have stones getting in the way to start causing problems with the chainsaws, or bits of wire, but also we're pulling out brambles and alexanders and all the things that will compete with the regrowth. So there's a bit of tidying and a bit of prep to do, and then we'll crack on and when we get into the swing of things, when we get our volunteers on the go and they know what they're doing, then we can sort of move quite quickly. But you've just got to make a start.
Yeah, it's quite a big, daunting task. So it's sort of, it takes quite a lot to get started. But once we get started, it's great. And then we've got a whole bunch of trees appearing from TCV, haven't we? You know, they've given us a massive selection of trees which we're going to be putting in.
Yeah, the amazing TCV. So TCV are the conservation volunteers. And TCV, supported by OVO Energy, are basically making 2 million trees available for planting through this winter through the I Dig Trees scheme. And we've applied for 500 trees.
We did think about applying for the full 2 million, but there were limits.
There's limits to what we can even achieve with our incredible volunteers. But we have got 500 trees being delivered next week, and we're going to use those on an area that we have campers going onto at the moment, and which is sort of an open part of the farm. We're going to set up a sort of a bit of a try at something like an agroforestry scheme. And so one of the things that we're doing in the future is really looking at how we're using various different spaces on the farm. And this particular field, it's about 1 hectare in size, and we will get about 250, 300 trees onto there, and we'll let those get established, and we can cut those trees for timber, or we can leave them in place for wildlife, or we've got various different options. And because they're in rows, it means that we can mow down in between them, we can have people camping around them, and also at some point maybe we can start grazing sheep on the grass between them as well.
Yeah, which will be really cool. They'll enjoy all the interesting sort of things that have appeared in those long stretches between the trees, which will be really good. So, yeah, fantastic. Anything else that sort of you want to share with the world that's happening at Deepdale?
I think that's pretty much it at the moment. We have just put out 15 farmland bird feeders, and we are putting out about 2 tons of bird seed this winter. So, yeah, I mean, I mentioned some of our volunteers mixed up some of that bird seed the other day. But we're also looking at, we've got the big farmland bird count coming up between the 4th and the 20th of February, so we'll be doing that. There's also the RSPB Big Garden Bird Watch happening this weekend, but we'll certainly be looking out for how the birds on the farm are doing at the moment. This is the first year that we've put in wild bird seed mix into the fields, which is a mix of plants that can sort of sustain the birds through the early winter months, and now we're providing extra feed by sort of scattering that on the ground and putting that in feeders. We're mainly just hoping we're going to see a lot more birds on the farm and sort of start to pay attention at what species we're getting. So that's something which is continuing. We'll have every time our volunteers are coming in, we can send them out with a good 100 kilograms of bird seed to scatter it around the place.
Fantastic, and you definitely see, they're beginning to find these feeders and really beginning to use them now, which is fantastic.
Yeah, fingers crossed. They'll start to get some use. Every time you sort of look in the direction of one of these feeders, you can see something small flying around it, and it's quite difficult to tell what they are from a distance. But we've got a nice mix of birds at the moment, and every so often you'll see a cloud of something take off from a field, and you won't have a clue what it is, and it possibly was something really quite exciting. But that's why we need binoculars, and I need better identification skills.
Yeah, well, your identify. You can say it as well. Identification skills
working out what the birds is
significantly greater than mine. So if you need more, then I more than need more. Well, man, it's lovely to chat with you. Thank you for coming on the podcast again.
Thank you.
And and if anybody wants to get involved with any of the stuff that Nathan's organising here, then please make sure you go to our website, deepdalefarm.co.uk. Click on events, and you'll see everything from how to work with a pole lathe with Richard Rood on one of his courses, through to the farm walks and the conservation days, and more will be added in due course. But
and if you're listening to this and you think to yourself, there's something that I'm doing at the moment, or there's something I want to try out and I'm quite interested, and would there be any way that I could use a space like Deepdale Farm to sort of do something like that, get in touch with us. Go to the website and look at Contact Us and send us a message, because we're really keen to have chats with people who want to use the farm as a space for courses and other ideas.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, man, I hope that 2022 continues unlike 2021, and that it's great being able to have volunteers back on the farm.
Yes, very
after a
nice.
couple of years of really not being able to. Long may this sunshine last.
Amen. Yes.
Cheers, man.
Thank you. Hi everyone, welcome back to another nature feature with me, Oliver, from the One Stop Nature Shop. So we've been doing these now for a few months, and obviously over those few months, if you look back and listen to the previous podcast, you'll see how things, or hear how things have changed. February is the start of the period of change known as spring, and while the start of February is a bit slow and there's not much moving, towards the end of February the bird life really starts to move. The big geese flocks will start to break up and start to head north, the pink-footed geese going off to Scandinavia and then on to northern Russia. But we also see big movements of sea ducks as well off the coast, especially off places like Holcombe Bay and Titchwell. Waders as well are starting to move, although they tend to move more in March. But you can see some movement in February. And also smaller birds like finches, they will start to break up from their winter flocks in order to form their pairs for spring. In terms of incomings or things to keep an eye out for, it's still a good time of year to see things like short-eared owl, birds like short-eared owl, hen harrier, merlin. They're very much still around. Obviously the geese flocks still are. There's always a chance of something a bit rarer in those, like a rare version of a Canada goose called a Todd's Canada goose has been around recently. And one of the real highlights of recent times on the coast has actually been the presence of a juvenile white-tailed eagle from the Isle of Wight reintroduction programme. That's been around Holcombe and the Brancaster area and actually flew very close to the shop at the end of January, so keep an eye out for the flying barn door, the third largest bird of prey on Earth, with an 8.5-foot wingspan. It's pretty hard to miss, even at distance. So in terms of the One Stop Nature Shop, we've got lots of new and exciting things coming this spring in terms of new products. You may have seen on BBC Winter Watch at the end of January the amazing footage with a thermal imaging camera of jack snipe. And while we can't guarantee jack snipe, we have got a great range of thermal imaging and night vision cameras and binoculars and monoculars in at the moment. And they're of a price that are very reasonable and allow you to get closer to nature in an affordable way. So please do pop in. We always have the latest bird news outside the shop every day. But if you want to know something specific, then please do come in and ask. And I look forward to speaking to you again next month when spring really starts. So thank you again for Jason for having me, and hope everyone is keeping safe and well. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
I'm on Zoom with the lovely Jin from Margins, which will make sense when she explains it later. And they used to do walking and glamping holidays going along the coast. And now what they do is they put their lovely, lovely safari tents up at Deepdale for the season, and you can come and stay in them. So rather than hearing it from me, you can hear it from the lady that has designed the offering, Jin herself. Hello, my darling.
Hello.
Are you all right? That will probably be Elfie in the background, I'm guessing. You don't need to apologize. It's not a problem. Everybody on the podcast pretty much loves dogs, so that's fine.
We said hello. And now they're at the door waiting for someone to come in.
Probably the postie, if it's like the postie at Deepdale, brings biscuits for them.
Yeah.
Very sensible.
Well, yeah. Right. We're okay.
Hello, my darling.
Hello.
Are you all right?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. So tell us, how has 2022 started for you?
Yeah, no, okay, actually. Okay. Obviously last year we didn't quite know what was going to happen this time at this point, but this year is very exciting because last year we had our 2 tents up at the fabulous Deepdale Camping and Rooms, and they were virtually booked out the whole time, and we had such wonderful feedback. So it's looking really good this year because we kind of know what we're doing now, and
that's always a nice thing, isn't it?
Exactly. We've sort of listened a lot to all the guests' comments and sort of looked at the pattern of bookings, and the pictures are beautiful. The 2 pictures that you've allowed us to put our tents on up at Deepdale they're huge, but the views are just unbelievable. And I think everybody that I took up to the tents, the first thing they do is just stop and look at that view over the countryside. It's absolutely beautiful. So yeah, we've kind of thought about how we can sort of enhance that and encourage people to be outside more and what have you. So yes, all exciting.
So tell us a bit about the kind of the offering, because they are safari tents, as I sort of saw when I was traveling in Africa and stuff, but they're a bit more than that, aren't they? Because you have, tailor-made, Mark has tailor-made a whole bunch of stuff to go in them.
Yeah, so I mean, the whole idea is we want people to still feel like they're camping ultimately, and getting that outdoor living experience. But at the same time, you can turn up and everything's provided for you. So you can literally just start your camping holiday straight away. But when I say camping, you don't turn up to a small tent that's got a couple of mats laid out for you on the floor and a little stove ready to make your cup of tea. What we've taken into consideration is a good night's sleep and making sure that you've got everything you need to make that all important fry up in the morning, and a good cup of tea, and focusing on the view as well. So when you turn up, each tent, there's 2 tents up on the beautiful wood view overlooking the countryside, and they're very close to your facilities as well, which is fantastic. So you almost have an ensuite, and in the tents there's a proper double bed, and Mark, that's where Margins comes from. I'm Gin, my husband's Mark, so that's where Margins came from. So Mark is Mr. Practical. So I kind of come up with the ideas, and he cringes when I say, I've been thinking.
He does look like, very nervous sometimes.
What have I got to make now, and how much is it going to cost? But he always comes up trumps and understands my mad thoughts and ideas. So the kitchen area, I wanted it to be as contained as possible and as easy as possible. So he's actually made sort of a little fitted kitchen to go in the tents that has a couple of gas burners. You've got a kettle, you've got a toaster, you've got a fridge with a little freezer compartment for those all important ice cubes and things. And all the pots and pans and plates and mugs and things that you will need. There's also, what we're adding to the tents as well is we had a lot of families stay with us last year, which was fantastic. But we wanted to make it a bit more streamlined and easy to maintain and comfy. So Mark has tailor-made some bunk beds to go in the tents, which he's in the process of doing now. They're almost finished. And because of the shape of the tents, they're lower at the back. So he staggered them so that we have a full-size bed at the bottom, and at the top it's slightly smaller, but it means that the person on the bottom can actually sit up in bed because it's slightly off, so it can actually fit the tents. But the top one is slightly smaller, but you can still fit an adult on there. It's just over 5 foot long, and proper mattresses. So the aim is to get a good night's sleep, and there'll be storage as well, because obviously they're slightly staggered. There will be sort of plenty of storage underneath the top one. So yes, they will be in there permanently. And also, the other thing that we kind of realise is, as beautiful as the pictures are, they are quite exposed at the top. So we wanted to create an even better outdoor area for people to sit in if it's either really hot or it's raining.
It never rains. It never rains. So you don't need to worry about that.
Just in just in case. So we are going to be putting up some rather nice covered seating areas this year as well, for you to be able to carry on with your barbecuing, which is also included, and the fire pit, which is also included, and sitting outside with lots of nice twinkly lights and things, and looking at those beautiful views and watching that all-important sunset, which is obviously amazing as well when you get.
Do you get amazing sunsets up there? Yeah. And
listening to the wildlife, that's the other thing. People really become more in tuned with the wildlife up there as well, and want to experience it more. So so we're adding to the experience.
Fantastic. When you did the walking tours and stuff, we had amazing feedback from people doing that. So it's lovely seeing people. We know a lot of people asked, is there any way that we can stay in these tents, over the season? And got you thinking, as in case you ever meet Jin, this happens a lot. Her brain goes in override as moment to any ideas develop. But it's just great to see kind of people, and they just become a really sort of integral part of what we offer at Deepdale. So it is really lovely.
It is. And I think the other thing that really came about last year as well is how many people, when they realised that the tents were up, how many more people were able to come with their friends and family. So we've got friends and family that have got a motorhome or a tent of their own or camper van, and they were able to bring along people to join them on their holidays that don't have those facilities, and they were able to just turn up and have a camping experience along with their friends. So that was absolutely lovely. And another one that really stands out was we got a lovely email from a lady who'd come on her own with her young 2-year-old. And she just said, I just had to say, it was the most amazing experience because everything was supplied. And it was so nice because it took all the hassle out of worrying about packing everything for me and my 2-year-old. I could just turn up and enjoy the experience as much as he was. And that kind of really sort of struck a chord as well, as when you supply everything for people, it just opens up so many more, makes it more accessible for people, I think, to be able to enjoy the outdoors and an outdoor living experience.
So when are the tents available from and until?
So this year we're starting for Easter, the Easter weekend.
Excellent.
And there are heaters in the tents as well and power. So, if people are a little bit worried about being cool, then they will be kept warm. And there's duvets and pillows and throws and things, so you can keep nice and warm. And we'll go straight through till, at the moment, the end of September. But, if the weather stays pretty good and is kind to us for October, we may stay open for then as well.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. Well, if you want any more information about these, just head to deepdalebackpackers.co.uk/glamping and you will find the tents on there, or just do posh camping or luxury camping at Deepdale and you'll find it on any decent search engine. But take a look at our website. Really lovely to chat with you, Jin. Thank you so much. And we're really looking forward to seeing your tents back up at Deepdale soon.
Yep, so are we. Bye.
So I'm on Zoom. I am with the lovely David of Moongazer Ale. And you probably remember back in January 2021, when we were all locked down, that I had a really lovely Zoom chat with Rachel and David all about Moongazer and, the inspiration behind the beers. And we talked about the poem that they take all the names of all their beers from. And you can listen back to that anytime you want. Just head onto our website and look up Deepdale Podcast January 2021, or search anywhere on any decent podcast directory. But I've now got David with me because he is doing a fairly massive feat, and he is going to be raising what we hope is huge sums of money for It's on the Ball, which is all about raising awareness of testicular cancer. Not easy for me to say. And he is going to be doing a beer push. And thought it'd be really good to kind of learn a bit more about what It's on the Ball does, but also particularly about the beer push, and then encourage you all, you lovely people, to make sure you sponsor David, because this is a mammoth feat, and I really think it would be great to get behind him. So, hello, sir. How are you?
Morning, Jason. How are you? I'm very well, thank you. Yep.
Good.
So, thanks
good.
for the big build-up. You just reminded me how imminent the beer push is now. So, getting a little bit more nervous as each day approaches, but really looking forward to it.
Well, sadly, you've had to kind of put it off a couple of times, haven't you, due to COVID? So, when is it now supposed to take place?
So, no supposed about it. We're going, even if the government tries to shut us down again, we're just going to go regardless. So, we're leaving the brewery on Thursday, the 31st of March in the morning. And then that's the beginning of a 147-mile push down to St. Bart's in East London to the oncology department there, who are the department that treat loads of the young men for testicular cancer. So, and very specialist treatment that they give them. So, we're really looking forward to that. And it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a tough challenge.
So you're going from the brewery, and what was the mileage you're doing?
It's 147. We're zigzagging a bit. So if we could go as a crow flies, it'd be a lot less than that. But two reasons for that. We're picking up the brewery's actually near Walsingham Abbey. So we're picking up an old pilgrim trail which used to run from near St. Paul's up to Walsingham. So we're doing that as a bit of an adventure, but also we want to zigzag through. So much of the push is all about meeting people and spreading the word about testicular cancer. So we're doing a few little diversions to make sure we go through some towns on the way. So it's 147 miles in total.
Fantastic. And it's a beer push, so you're carrying a keg of your finest real ale.
Yeah, no, we're pushing a cask of beer. So the beer was 72 pints. So the beer in the metal barrel and the trolley weighs a total of 75 kilograms. My fighting weight should be 76 kilograms by the time we leave. So effectively, I'm pushing my body weight 147 miles.
I hope you've got good pneumatic tyres on that trolley.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get some more coming through. We've got a very nice company that are sending us some through, but it's not just a trolley. What I keep explaining to people is there's lots of stiles and fences and gates and ditches in the way, because we're going off road a bit. So there will be a lot of physical lifting as well. And the challenge is that we're not to have any help, so it's all got to be done by myself. So no young helpers going, we'll just give you a lift over that stile with that. It's all got to be done with my fair hand.
So you're not going to use social media and say, I'm coming up to a stile. Anybody want to come and give me a hand?
It would be nice. It would be nice. But I think I'll set myself a personal challenge to want to do it and feel the pain, as they say.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, awesome. Luck with it. So tell me a bit more about It's on the Ball. Tell me a bit more about what they do and what their aim is.
Well, It's on the Ball is a small Norfolk charity, and there's 7 trustees, and they're all survivors of testicular cancer. And we've been working with them at Moongazer for about 5 years now, where every January we produce a beer called Toby's Tipple that the pubs in Norfolk and Suffolk sell, again to raise awareness. Because one of the, it sounds odd to say, the great things about this charity and this cancer is there is not specifically any need for major research into the cancer. We know how to treat it, we know how to cure it, we know what the treatment process is, and we have the resources to do that, or the NHS have the resources to do that. The challenge is that young men don't realise it exists, and they don't check themselves. And 98% of this cancer can be cured. But if for, say, 2 or 3 weeks you think, I've got a bit of a lump on my testicles, or something's changed, or a little bit uncomfortable, and you ignore it, that could be the difference between life and death. So 3 weeks delay in diagnosis could literally mean the difference between you living a full and complete life, including having a family, to you not being here at all. And that's the real tragic thing. And the thing that we face all the time, especially with, it's the biggest killer of young men between 18 and 35 in the country, is it doesn't happen to them. They're invincible. They're unbeatable. They're playing football. They're doing all the things that young blokes do. Cancer's an old person's disease. And this particular cancer isn't. It doesn't discriminate. If anything, it targets younger people. So it's all about getting them to check themselves every month and moving on. And that's the thing we like to do and raise awareness, because you can see tangible results. We get thank you emails from people saying, I had your beer, I went to the doctors, and I'm now in treatment. And that's just such an amazing thing that you can do that. So yeah, that's a real thing. And I hark back to, in my day, say 10 years ago, no one really talked about breast cancer. That was a taboo subject because it's body parts, so we don't talk about those. But now breast cancer, there's so much awareness about it. There's so much activity going on around it, and the survival rates and the treatment rates have just gone up massively. And that's what we're trying to do for young men, really. We're just trying to bring that same sort of awareness and acceptance into raising awareness for testicular cancer.
That's brilliant. That's so good. That's so good. And well done. It's just, a brilliant thing. I remember years ago being asked to put on a pair of underpants with "It's on your ball," on the ball, while I was at the Royal Norfolk Show, where we had a stand there. And but it's fantastic to see that really developing. And I think this beer push is a wonderful idea, and I really, really hope people will happily support you with your fundraising, because I think it's such an important thing. It's just brilliant. Well done.
Thank you. No, much appreciated. And one of the, you touched upon about what the guys do. It's on the ball as well as awareness and awareness. Just very quickly, because they're all survivors. One of the key things that young people get when they're suddenly faced with you've got cancer, the treatment starts tomorrow. This isn't something that it's like, oh, we'll get back to you in the next few months. It's like, yes, you've got testicular cancer, go get your pajamas, you're in. And then suddenly you imagine that when you're 25, you've got a mortgage, you've got one kid, you're going to be off work for 6 months. How do you pay your bills? How do you do that? So the cancer is there to support that and offer financial help, just to take that stress away of how do I pay the mortgage, for the first month or whatever they can afford to give. They just give them some little bit of comfort. But the key thing is you actually then talk to someone that's been through it. So instead of a doctor talking in language that they try to be empathetic, but they have to use, long words and words that just sometimes go over everyone's head, or talking to your family, you'll say, of course it will be all right. The guys, it's on the ball, don't pull any punches, but they'll say, this is what's going to happen. These are the highs, these are the lows, this is what you're going to go through. And because they've done it and been there, you can actually listen. And they tell you the things that you don't know what questions to ask, because you don't know how you're feeling. You don't know what you're going to go through. So they know what questions you want to ask, even if you don't think of them. So they tell you, and that support is just immense. If you can imagine that, laying in a hospital bed, to have someone to come and give you that mentoring, as it were, through the disease. So full respect for them. And the thing that attracted me to them and wanted to help them, they all could have walked away and just gone, thanks very much, I'm treated, I'm going to have a normal life. But they chose to put back and stop others going through what they had to go through. So fair play to them. So really looking forward to it.
Well done, man. Fantastic. And if you want to try out that fantastic beer that raises funds for It's on the Ball, then look out for, what's the name of the beer?
It's the generic name is Toby's Tipple, but each year it gets a different name. So this year it's actually, there's one called Get Checking and one called Keep Checking. And when we once we start the beer push in 31st of March, we will launch another version throughout the pubs, which will be again the same, the Get Checking. But like I say, hopefully that will get people to log on and find out what It's on the Ball is all about.
Superb. Well, we'll make sure we put lots of links to the Just Giving page that David's got up and running. And if you are wanting to support him or find out a bit more information, just put David's Beer Push into any good search engine, and you'll find him. Smiling photo of him wearing his underpants on his outside of his jeans, just like Superman, with his trolley and his lovely little keg, and a pint of beer, of course. What more could you want, really? So, well, good luck, man. And we really wish you all the best with the beer push. We look forward to watching your progress as you go along. And if you do get to one of those styles and you do need help, just shout.
Thanks, Jason. Really appreciate the support. Yeah, much needed. Thank you.
Cheers, David.
Bye.
Thanks again for listening to the Deepdale Podcast. We hope you enjoy the listen, so much so that you might tell your friends and family to take a listen. You can subscribe to the Deepdale Podcast in any good podcast directory, including Apple iTunes, Google Podcasts, Castbox, our hosts, Spotify and YouTube, and you'll find all our previous episodes. We always love to hear your thoughts and suggestions, so please do drop us an email to podcast@deepdalefarm.co.uk. Keep well, and we look forward to seeing you on the beautiful North Norfolk coast sometime soon.
Skies all open wide, geese go high and over. Oh, now you're a beachcomber, fistful